Haldane rolling right along. Been looking forward to this segment all morning long. Let's talk about the EBR Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Welcoming into the studio Chris Zonka, the executive director, and Niles Hamer, the deputy director. Gentlemen, welcome. I should say welcome back. We've had both of you on the show at some point in the past on different things. Good morning.
Happy to be back.
No, glad to have you on here. Glad to be talking about this and glad to be seeing the direction it looks like it's starting to take. But let's back up a little bit and talk about the evolution of the EBR Criminal Justice Coordinating Council.
Sure. It's in January this year or next year, it'll be 4 years old. We started January of 2019, formed officially as a 501c3 with the help of the MacArthur Foundation and a lot of justice and business owners around here. They noticed there was a lack of communication among justice officials, and they wanted to create something that set a foundation for all justice and community to come together and have collaborative talks about how to better the justice process and the system, and it's gone great since then.
So talking about bettering the justice process, what does that mean and what does that look like in real life?
Well, there's a lot of things. The justice process, it's a short term, but it's a very long item to look at, and so we broke it up into segments, your pretrial, your during court, your post-conviction, and we looked at the different segments and said, what can we do better in this? How can we, as agencies, make this a better process for the defendant and for the people working through it? So we focus a lot on the pretrial side, doing a more effective job of getting sooner representation, making sure fair bonds are set, making sure that judges have all the information they need when making bonding decisions. That's really important. So we focus a lot on the pretrial side.
Making sure judges have all the information they need. I think that one's going to come up a lot simply because the number of times we read headlines about someone who's committed a crime while they're out for another crime. I would hope that would be the aim, would be to reduce those instances.
It is. It absolutely is. The only thing we can't give the judges is a crystal ball. Right. You're not going to know what's going to happen but we can look at their history. We can look at their circumstances of the current charge. We can do interviews with them to see if there are, socioeconomic or behavioral health needs that the person may need to be attached to that would help them preventing future crimes. We can do all of that, and then the judge has to make an educated decision on, what level of bond to put on and what kind of bond conditions to put on that person.
But if I'm hearing this right, it means the more input, the better the output.
Absolutely.
The more, I don't want to say data because we're talking about people, but the more backstory you can have, the better you're going to be able to determine what path you should be taking.
And saying data is actually okay because we want our justice officials making data-driven decisions. And if we're making data-driven decisions, then we are improving the criminal justice process.
Let's talk about a couple of initiatives y'all have already got off and running. What has the EBR Criminal Justice Coordinating Council already been able to accomplish?
Well, we've had a busy year this year. We've helped to collaborate with the DA's office in 19th JDC and the Public Defender's Office on several things, one of them being the Domestic Violence Intervention Court that'll start up next year. Mm-hmm. It's a new approach to how you handle domestic violence cases. It'll be unique to the first in Louisiana that'll be doing that. We also, when I was here last time, we were talking about the implementation of a new Veterans Treatment Court.
Yes.
That was very important to me, being a veteran, to work towards that, and that took a couple years to get up and going. We've done that. I'll let Niles talk about our rapid case assessment teams.
Well, one of the things we've done this year, the CJCC has hired a new deputy director. I'm that new deputy director. But for years, I've been this fiery criminal defense attorney. And then the last 2 years, I was actually a city prosecutor working through a CJCC program, which is the rapid case assessment team, which puts a prosecutor and a public defender in first appearance court. And for years, we did not have that. So many decisions could not be made. You put a prosecutor and public defender in first appearance court, especially in city court where I was a city prosecutor. We were able to resolve 80% of the cases on first appearance, which is a good thing because we were able to get the people who shouldn't have been in jail out of jail a little bit quicker. The people who probably should be in jail, at least let them know what's going on so they can better assess the situation and have legal representation as soon as they see the judge. And for many years, we just didn't have it. And I know it seems like a foreign concept that, wait a minute, you didn't have a prosecutor and public defender in first appearance. We just didn't have that. But now we do. So those were that rapid case assessment team, we call it RCAP, was one of the initiatives that proved that we can improve the justice system. But we have some other things coming next year that we're looking forward to also.
We'll get into those in just a minute. I want to stick with that rapid case assessment team. We're talking with Chris Zonka and Niles Hamer about the East Baton Rouge Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Okay, you use the word like rapid. Obviously, we want things to move a little bit quicker. How do you work the balance between do you want it done fast or do you want it done right?
Yes. Well, all defendants have a right to a speedy trial. Here in East Baton Rouge Parish, the speedy trial, especially if you're incarcerated, it slows to a halt. I found out through working through the city prosecutor's office, because I was a longtime defense attorney, that it's just not the fact that the prosecutors doesn't want to go to trial or the judges are delaying it. There's a problem in the whole system where there's not enough employees, there's not enough people who can collect the evidence, there's not enough lab technicians, there's just not enough for funding for our system for it to move rapidly. But there are some things that we can do to improve the system, and the RCAT actually led to an effort where we get the case before the person makes their first appearance, the defendant, and we had a chance to meet. We meet with the public defender. If we needed to go to the judge, we'll go to the judge. We actually set it up so the parties involved in the criminal justice system can meet to resolve cases and then push it along. We don't have that too much at the 19 JDC. We're working to get there at the 19 JDC, but it's worked wonders in Baton Rouge City Court.
We've talked with District Attorney Hiller more about some of these staffing shortages and about the backlog of cases and how COVID exacerbated that. Are we starting to see some movement to get clear of all that?
Well, I think everybody's still extremely short-staffed, and not just, attorneys. The city prosecutor's office is down. The public defender is down. Hiller's office is down. Also, the police department, the sheriff's office. It's a nationwide. It's not just, here in Louisiana. And that's going to be one of the big focuses on changing the way that recruiting happens and looking at a lot of the offices are talking about revising their guidelines for acceptance to make it so people want to go into these fields. And I think a lot of that actually starts with a raise in pay for all of those.
Yeah, eventually that's what it's going to come around to. Can we talk pretrial diversion for a minute? Because this is one of those ones where it gets touchy from the outside looking in because it looks like you're putting people back on the street rather than punishing crime. But there's a definite difference here.
Yes, there is a difference, and we actually have a pretrial diversion and recovery program. We used to call drug court, but now it's called recovery court. But we have a pretrial version of that recovery court. There's a lot of people in this parish that suffer from drug addiction, and we want to help better them. Locking individuals up, not getting them the treatment that they need, and just releasing them without wraparound services is actually doing a disservice to that person and not helping the justice process at all. So our pretrial diversion and recovery program, we actually look at nonviolent offenders who have substance issues. We bring them into our program. They go through inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment. We give them wraparound services. We help them get jobs. And when they're graduating from our program, we're showing that recidivism rate is lower.
Okay.
So those type of programs, pretrial programs, actually help the criminal justice process.
And drugs and the drug trade in Baton Rouge leads directly to crime and oftentimes directly to violent crime. Solving that is so multifaceted, but reducing demand would be one of those factors in that equation.
You're absolutely right. And we found the good thing about the pretrial diversion program, as compared to what we refer to as recovery court, is we get them at the very beginning of their arrest cycle. They're usually contacted by our social worker within days of being arrested. They're assessed, and typically within a week after being arrested, if approved by the DA and the judge and this team, they're out and in programming. Whereas with recovery court, you have to go through the whole trial process, be found or plead guilty, and then get accepted in the recovery court, which could take months.
Absolutely. We're talking with Niles Hamer and Chris Zonka about the East Baton Rouge criminal. I knew I was going to back. I knew before we got through this segment I was going to screw up the back end of the name.
CJCC.
The CJCC, the Coordinating Council, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. I got stuck on coordinating, darn it. You hinted, Niles, about what y'all got on the horizon.
Yes. Well, I can tell you this. We're going to be making an announcement in January. We're partnering with the Baton Rouge Police Department and the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office with a Lights On program. What is Lights On? Lights On is an initiative where normally when you get stopped and you have a tail light that's out, a headlight that's out, you're given a citation. The citation costs money, and if you don't have much money, you lived on a fixed income, it becomes one of those barriers. And now you may get a suspended driver's license because you can't pay the cost. Well, this program actually hands out vouchers instead of the citation, a voucher redeemable up to $250. They can go to a local auto repair shop here in East Baton Rouge Parish to get repairs done to their vehicle. They don't have to make a court appearance. They don't have to have the stress of a $140 ticket. And then we're focusing on zip codes, underserved zip codes in East Baton Rouge Parish, Gardere, the Glen Oaks area, North Baton Rouge, to make this program work.
That's fascinating. Is there follow-up to see if it was just a matter of, I had this and didn't get it fixed versus I'm just absolutely ignoring what the law is?
Yeah, we have an agreement in place with the Sheriff's Office and the Police Department. They're going to track the vouchers after they're given to see what are redeemed and what are, and the agency, the Lights On agency, is actually going to feed us data. So over the course of the next year, we can see how that's being used.
Very cool stuff. What else y'all got working on?
Well, we also are going out into the community. We're doing a lot of community engagement. We have an organization under the CJCC called Engage. So that's when we bring community leaders together, advocacy groups, and just community members in general together to talk about the criminal justice process and how we can make improvements. On our board, Chris already told you, we have the mayor, the sheriff's office, the DA, city prosecutor, city court judge, but we also have 2 community representatives on the board. In order to improve the justice process, we just can't sit at the table with the justice stakeholders. We need community involvement. So we plan to grow our Engage organization next year.
And next year, next year sounds like it's going to be a big year for y'all. You have a number of things. Y'all were in front of the Metro Council last week as well. So we're going to have to get you back on early in next year to talk about the updates.
Absolutely.
No problem.
Chris, Niles, thank y'all so much for the time this morning. Fascinating stuff. Looking forward to following your work.
All right. Merry
Appreciate it,
Christmas.
Brian.
Merry Christmas to y'all as well.